Let's see what happens here. Okay, it says we're live. Let's see if I got that notification on YouTube.
We're live. Yep.
Watch live now. Talking Nets 97, road trip over, back home. What I would like to do is tweet this link out now.
Tweet this link out. Just want to make sure the audio is coming through.
Yeah, it's all good. I think there's going to be a little bit of an echo. I see we got two people watching. What's up? We're testing some stuff out today as we're getting closer to the playoffs, as we're ramping up to be live probably after every playoff game. This is a test run, but we are going to do the episode live right now.
Just got to make sure everything's working for when we do come. When it comes playoff time, we don't want to be doing all this troubleshooting. We've been working on trying to make sure this thing's can get going for a couple weeks now. Even this morning, had some things we had to fix, had some setbacks, had some difficulties. But here we are. We're live. So I think we should be all good to go, Keith, as soon as you tweet that link.
Yep, I'm saying good morning. We're live.
First seed Nets as well.
Road trip over, back home. Well, technically, we're in second because of the tiebreaker.
Right, we're the second seed. Yeah, right. Everybody likes letting us know.
Which we'll talk about soon, because like I just said, that's what pissed me off, man. Like, win the games, beat the Raptors. The Raptors, I know the Raptors were favored, though, and they've had our number, so.
Whatever, though. Let's
all right. That's tweeted out. We should get a couple people. I see two people. Sarge, what up? Sarge DI, Monmouth County. Yep, Talking Nets. Good morning. We're live. Join us. Let me retweet from that Keith McPherson account, which no longer has more followers than Talking Nets. That's crazy. I knew it would happen, though. It's part of the plan.
Tragic. Yeah, it's moving. All right. It's building. All right, Keith, let's get it.
Counting us in here. Well, are you recording your line?
I am recording. Yep.
Okay, here we go. Talking Nets. Episode 97. We are live right now on YouTube as we're figuring out how we're going to go live for the playoffs, probably be live after every game. But today, we got to talk about another loss. Third podcast in a row. We're coming in talking about a loss.
It's not great. It's not great.
I got very
used to the undefeated episodes.
I got used to the Nets winning every game. So, Talking Nets, episode 97. Let's get it. Nope, see, already messing shit up. Let's bring this back.
That is why we are practicing, Keith. Got to get all this troubleshooting out of the way before it's playoff time. Before the stakes
I'm playing the audio from here. Eventually, I'll have it set up where the audio just comes through on YouTube. What's up? I see y'all in the chat. Jabril, Rao, Zaire. All right, here we go.
Yo, we got London and South 97. Africa too. Shoot.
Let's get it. Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talking Nets, episode 97. Like Hot 97 every day. That's my word. We're in New York, man. That's an easy one. Hot 97, blazing hip hop and R&B. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn blazing talking Nets and basketball and NBA talk. Hudson Flynn, say what's up to the people.
Man, how we doing, everybody? Love everybody that's in the live chat on an early Friday morning before the Nets play the Celtics. We got people from London. We got people from South Africa. That probably explains why we're here. They're here, though, because they got the time advantage. It's not coming to them bright and early on the Friday morning. It's later in their day. But, man, like you said in the intro, a win and a loss, our third straight episode coming into the podcast, going 1-1. I'm getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of having to talk about a loss. I'm getting tired of having to say we didn't have players, we had injuries, we have excuses. I'm getting tired of that, and the Nets are getting tired of it too, and they have to be because the playoffs are coming up. We're less than 15 games away from not being able to make excuses, from it being time to win, and really not having a choice about what we have to do, no matter what injuries come at us, no matter what refs do to us, no matter what the other team does. We got to get these wins, and the games are starting to really matter, Keith.
And that's the thing, Hudson. You got time until you don't. There's only so much time left to say, well, we'll figure it out, or we'll get healthy, or this isn't our team. We can't be worried about losses because this isn't the team we're going to roll into the playoffs. Well, we do have to worry about losses, and we do have to worry about the guys that we have. And honestly, this Nets team has been without the big three for majority of the season. Kyrie has taken a leave of absence, I think 3 or 4 times, and he's played more games than Harden and KD. And they haven't played but 6.5 games together. And there's a lot of hype, obviously, surrounding us. There's a lot of expectations around us. And we need to get these guys healthy and ready to go. And I'm not worried about chemistry. I'm not talking about how they're going to gel. These guys played together with Team USA. They're veterans in the league. They're high IQ basketball players. They're all stars. They're going to be fine as far as gelling and chemistry. There's only 5 guys on the court. And when you have a big 3 like we have, that's not the worry. But the worry is health and these guys being able to make it through a playoff run and get us to the finals and win it. There's literally no other option, right? There's no Eastern Conference Finals loss that will satisfy this fan base. There's no trip to the finals and losing to whoever comes out of the West that'll satisfy the media. The expectations are set now for the Brooklyn Nets to win it all. You pulled off the heist getting James Harden. You figured out how to add Blake Griffin. You've got players that have emerged like Bruce Brown, Nick Claxton. You've got surprises on the vet minimum like Jeff Green. You've got a trade in Landry Shamet that now Landry Shamet is starting to finally come into his own. We got to put it all together soon. Your Brooklyn Nets are 39-20. Second place in the East behind the Sixers via the tiebreaker. And I was upset. My initial reaction to the Raptors loss, part of it was because I was in Yankee Stadium watching the Yankees lose to the Braves, getting shut out. But I had said in my tweet, like, yo, that's a game we got to win. I'm tired of the excuses of who we don't have. We have enough good players on this team to go beat a 24-34 team playing in an arena that's not their own. But I know that the Raptors have won the last 10 against the Nets at home. And I know that they were favored coming into that game. So let's talk about that. Honestly, Hudson, you watched the game. You covered the game. I was, like I said, at the Yankee game, and I'm about to scale those back because I'm tired of being cold and mad and taking L's. Tell us what you were thinking, because we had that game in the beginning, and then the Raptors closed us out.
Yeah, and the Nets played amazing basketball for about a quarter and a half. But when that quarter and a half ended, that kind of extended run that the Raptors went on from midway through the second quarter to about 3/4 through the third quarter, it just kind of ruined the Nets. They lost that energy. They lost the confidence they came out playing with. And that was really what killed them, because we saw them kind of pick up their pace in the fourth quarter, bring it within 5, doing their best to really fight back. But if you go down like that early, it's just not going to work. You're not going to be able to fight back from that big of a deficit that you put yourselves into, which is especially disheartening because the Nets were up so much so early, and it was great to see. We thought we had flipped the narrative, but it turns out we flipped the narrative, but in a bad way. We started off hot. We finished the game slow. We couldn't get the win. And it's unfortunate because now the Nets are going to a weekend like we'll talk about with 2 big games. 2 games against teams that you can't look past, you can't overlook. Obviously, we have the Celtics tonight, Friday, April 23rd, and then we play the Suns, ESPN primetime, arguably the hottest team in the league. Certainly because of their mascot, the hottest team in the league. But no, it's getting to be winning time. And look, I'm moving past moral victories. This team needs to ramp up for the playoffs, and I know that there's going to be excuses and that they're understandable. We didn't have Harden. We didn't have KD. Hopefully we get KD back tonight, but we're running out of time for that, Keith. We're running out of time to be able to say things. We're running out of time for moral victories, for showing up and looking good despite a loss. And as much as it feels like not the right vibe to say, because I remember a couple episodes ago, we were like, okay, we lost to the Sixers, but we didn't have anybody. It's a wash, whatever. Keith, those excuses are fading, and the Nets need to win games. And if they go out, even when they're shorthanded and playing on a back-to-back with everything stacked up against them, you showed that you had the capability of beating the Raptors, but just couldn't keep that energy up through 4 quarters, and that was really disheartening.
Yeah, there's only 12 games left. That was game 59 of 72. Tonight against the Celtics is game 60. The Nets end up losing to the Raptors 114-103 Wednesday night in Tampa. And that was a game that I wanted because, you know, looking at the Sixers end up losing to Steph Curry. Steph Curry goes off and they're banged up. And then they lost last night to the Bucks, where if we win that game against the Raptors, we're in first place. And now we have to face the Celtics. We have to face the Suns this weekend. Those could very well be 2 more losses. There could be a 3-game losing streak here. Is KD going to play? Is KD going to save us? Is KD going to help us? Maybe. But the Brooklyn Nets seem to be extremely cautious about how they're handling these injuries. And obviously, that's understandable. The objective here is to be healthy for the playoffs and win the finals, not to win these last 12 games. James Harden had a setback. And I read about that, and I'm like crushed by it because he was looking like the MVP. Now that's over. You got people talking about Julius Randle as the 3rd MVP behind Embiid and Jokic. You got to be on a top team to win MVP. But we had that guy. We have been sitting in the second place spot in the East for weeks now, and we had Harden, who was looking like the MVP. He gets a setback, and the hamstring is still bothering him, and we don't know his exact return time or date. And at this point, with 12 games left, they might not want to show their hand at all. They might say, hey, we're going to go into the playoffs with the big 3, and that's when we'll see them. We don't need to show the NBA anything. We have games left where we play opponents twice. We have the Bucks twice, right? No, we have the Bulls twice. And I think we have the Bucks twice too. So it's like if we're going to be playing teams, we don't need to show our hand. And as a fan, you're kind of just like itching, waiting. Like we have the most firepower on one team. We have the most talented roster, but we're incomplete as we're watching us lose these games and play these games. Anything else from the Raptors game before we move on from it? I feel like there's no reason to really harp on it. You know, when I'm looking at the box score now, Reggie Perry, DMP, Tyler Johnson, DMP, Kevin Durant, DMP. Who else were we missing in that game? Claxton.
We were missing a lot, but there were some things that I saw.
Harden.
I just want to say that there were some things that I saw that I didn't like. I didn't like that Joe Harris scored 12 points in 5 minutes and only scored 2 points the rest of the game. I didn't like that. I didn't like that the Nets came out firing with so much confidence and then sat back. I didn't like that. And there were a lot of things from this game that you can take away from it, but there are also some things that you shouldn't because of the situation that the Nets were put in. But at the end of the day, it's time, Keith. It's time for this team to come together. It's time for this team to play together. And look, in Marks I trust, in Steve Nash I trust, in that whole staff I trust, in everybody's organization I trust. So I know that they're doing whatever they can to make sure that the Nets are going to be good for the playoffs, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But man, as a fan, it just feels a little tough to not be able to watch this play together. We want to, but at the same time, I don't buy into the narratives. I don't buy into, oh, the Knicks are good now. They're up to the 4 or 5 seed, whatever. I don't buy into them thinking that they're putting pressure on the Nets. I don't buy into the Bucks. I don't buy into any of that. I just want the Nets to go into the playoffs to shut these people in the media up, because they're finding more things to talk about, whether it's injuries, whether it's now the Knicks are good. Who knows? I don't love it. I just want to get to the playoffs, Keith, but we got to play to get there, and I want to win as the 1 seed. And to do that, we have to win games, and we have to have our best players.
Yeah, I hate talking about the Madison Squares, but let me say this about them. We don't care about your win streak. We don't care about the culture you're building and Tom Thibodeau and your fans partying outside Madison Square Garden. That's cute and that's cool. But, like, you're still the 4th seed, and you're in a pack with 3 other teams that are, like, within a game and a half of you. And I'm not sure, because I don't follow the New York Knicks, but I don't think they've played anybody great. Congratulations, Knicks. Since you got swept by the Brooklyn Nets and you know you don't have to play the Nets anymore, you started to figure it out. But there's a long way to go here, and you don't want to match up with us first round. And I'll say this, these Knicks fans, because I'm around a lot of them, I'm in chats with a lot of them, I get a lot of this energy as the New Jersey guy in New York that's a Nets fan. You think it's sweet, but it's not sweet. If you get swept in your home city by the team from New Jersey that came across the bridge and turned Brooklyn into the center of the basketball world, turned Brooklyn into the new Mecca, it's going to be a long summer and a long offseason. So be careful what you wish for. Anyway, on to the Pelicans game. This was a good game. This was a good win. And it had me thinking, hey, you know, we can handle Zion and BI, and we're on this road trip where we end up losing 2 out of 3 games on this road trip. I thought we were going to salvage the road trip, you know, and beat the Raptors, but this was a good game. Let's talk about the defense, because when you look at the Toronto game, the defense has got to be much better. I think 4 out of 5 of their starters were in double digits. 2 guys scored over 20, and 2 other guys were close. We were able to contain Zion and BI, who, you know, are 2 guys that can go off on any given night. Defense was decent enough. You know, Zion put up 30, 33, BI put up 27, but we kind of contained the rest of the guys. And Landry Shamet, Kyrie Irving, I love, like, that duo, what they have. And you get 24 out of Joe Harris. You get enough out of the bench and role players. Blake Griffin with 16, TLC with 10. And I feel like we got to give TLC some props. I seen him hit some threes. I feel like they have to roll him out there, and they have to trust in him, and it's going to come along. Share some thoughts with me about the Pelicans game from Tuesday and what your thoughts were watching the Nets go out there and score 134 points, win by 5, and do enough on defense to get that win.
Well, first off, Kyrie completely switched up the narrative, because after the Heat loss, people were getting on him about not passing to Shamet down the stretch, you know, missing bad shots, not being a closer. He completely switched up the narrative. He went off. He was facilitating. He was scoring. He was passing in the late game moments. But at the end of the day, he was a killer. And what a better look as a Nets fan and a Kyrie fan that we both are, to see him win the game, not on a clutch shot, not on some razzle-dazzle, you know, dribble moves, but on a defensive play, getting a steal on Zion in the last possession of the game that really, really mattered. It felt great. It felt great to switch up the narratives. It felt great to see Kyrie go out and play like that. And it felt great to see him take accountability after the Heat loss and shut everybody up. And at the end of the day, when Kyrie has become the player that has been the most reliable star on this Nets team in terms of being able to play, that's what you have to do. And regardless of whether that was the way the Nets were meant to be built or the way that we were meant to be played, it was great to see. Also, you talked about defense. Blake Griffin looked great. He played his first back-to-back. The man is, I believe, third in the NBA in charges, leads the Nets in charges after only playing 12 games with the Nets. He is a walking energy booster. I love what he's been able to do for the Nets. I love that Jeff Green was able to play. And I love that we didn't have to rely on DeAndre Jordan going up against Zion and Steven Adams, two bigger players than the small ball lineup we usually roll out. That was really exciting for me to see. Again, though, Bruce Brown, you mentioned him a little. We're not giving him enough credit because he deserves all the credit. He's back to the form that he had right before the All-Star break, where he's playing like a 6'5" center. And it's just great to see. If Zion can go out and be 6'7", 300 pounds running the point, Bruce Brown can be a 6'5" center. And I just loved watching it. He was getting so many rebounds. He's been hitting his threes recently, which is something that I don't know if anyone expected. Even the most optimistic Bruce Brown fans know that he is not a great three-point shooter, but he's been hitting the shots. He hit a momentum three in that game to lead the Nets to that win, and that was great to see. And it really gave me heart because we've been talking about the Nets needing to win with these excuses despite the things that they don't have going in their favor. The Nets role players are back to being some of the best role players in the entire NBA. And they've been playing outside of their roles and stepping up into bigger roles. And that's only going to get better when James Harden gets back, the best passer in the NBA. So imagine that. James Harden going in with a Shamet who's shooting greater than 50% this month. A Bruce Brown who's playing like a center, who's been catching lobs, who's been throwing lobs. Blake Griffin, who's been doing everything that he's been doing. I'm just excited to see it. And I think that I wish personally that these games were flipped. I wish that we were going into this podcast talking about this Pelicans game because that really was a great win that I felt great about as a Nets fan to see them go out shorthanded with a small rotation against a team that physically is bigger than them, that is not a good matchup for them based on size alone, and to go out, put up 134 points without your two biggest stars and just shut everybody up. So I love that game. Did not love the Raptors game. I wish they were flipped.
Yeah. In my notes, I have 8 charges in 12 games for Blake Griffin. Something you don't think about when you sign Blake Griffin. Like, this guy's going to draw charges. TLC hitting big shots down the stretch in the fourth, getting his confidence back. Bruce Brown has to be on the floor. He is the ultimate role player, ultimate glue guy, and I feel like he's got the confidence now. Like, obviously, he dropped 21 in the Raptors game, but, like, he's given us those strong minutes, and you know he's not going to be a starter. You know he's going to be coming off the bench in the playoffs, but we can look forward to him giving us solid minutes. He does all the little things. He does the little hustle things. He rebounds, steals, plays defense. Like, he's great. I love Bruce Brown. What a Sean Marks find. Joe Harris, I think I tweeted at Talking Nets during the Raptors game because he came out with those 12 points. There's a stat that I read. It said we're 11-1 when Joe Harris scores over 20 points. So I was waiting for him to get 8 points in that Raptors game to make sure we won, and he ended up only getting one more
Everybody
bucket
did.
after that. What
It's
else?
just
from this
unfortunate.
game?
But I liked what I saw. That's all I got to say about that game, honestly.
What I liked from that game, because I'm gonna have a couple negative things before we move on. What I liked from that game is, like, Kyrie wasn't able to close against Miami. He missed some shots, and we heard the post game, and he should have found Landry and whatever. But then they come right back against the Pelicans, and it's like a refuse to lose mentality. And I do worry about this team sometimes late in games because that is what we're gonna get into in the playoffs. There's going to be situations where we need to inbound correctly. We need to call timeouts. We need to foul. We need to know exactly what to do. And I do worry about this team when it comes to that. But, other than that, Jeff Green was trying to embarrass the young boy Hayes, that dunk where he was coming through. He kind of looked away and then just boom. Love it. That's all he likes to do. That's all he tries to do.
He didn't change his face either. He had the Kawhi, no smile going in on that hammer. That was great. We got people in the chat too. I just want to address this question because it's kind of a question that pertains to this game. Let's see, from Jabril. Who should we start at center for the playoffs when the opposite team has a dominant big? For me, I just want to say, and I'll let Keith talk about this quickly because I love getting questions from the chat. It makes this podcast a lot easier for us because we are given things to talk about. But I don't see the need to play DeAndre Jordan. I don't see the need to start him in these teams with a dominant big. And I think we saw exactly why in that game against the Pelicans. And we seen exactly why, especially in that stretch at the end of the game against the Sixers back when we lost to them and we almost came back. Because when we double them with a 6'8" player and Bruce Brown or some other tenacious type player, they get locked up. We locked up Embiid like that. We didn't even need to do that on Steven Adams or Zion. And that's what I'm looking for because you can only rely on DeAndre Jordan to do so much. And this isn't a DeAndre Jordan hate podcast anymore because he's picking up DNPs. So it's like really not that big of an issue anymore. What it is that you can only rely on him to do so much. And he did that at the beginning of that Sixers game, but then he faded. And that's what you're going to have from him. So you need to have options that are outside of him. And those options seem to be Jeff Green and Blake or Bruce Brown and Alizé doubling. And that has seemed to work. And until teams can figure out how to get around that or pass out of those doubles, to me, it seems like a win.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Hudson. I was like, why do the Nets start slow? Why was there a 16-0 run in the Pelicans game and they opened up the game 21-8? And some of that we can tie to who's starting at center for us, who's at the 5 versus these dominant bigs. And I look at it like this: the Nets can't rely on DeAndre Jordan. If we're going into the playoffs saying we're relying on DeAndre Jordan, we're in trouble. They will have different schemes. They will have different guys there. It'll be a mix of DeAndre Jordan, Claxton, and then we'll play some small ball 5. And there's 3 guys we've seen play the 5 between Blake Griffin, Uncle Jeff, and Biggie Smalls, Bruce Brown. I also think this: when we play teams with dominant bigs, I know people are like in fear of the Sixers with Embiid or the Heat with Bam or the Bucks with Giannis. Don't forget, we're going to have Harden, KD, and Kyrie on the court. The game won't be able to run just through the bigs. It won't be able to just be run through the paint. It's going to be a different look with our dominant big 3 on the floor. So I don't know. I think the Nets are going to have strategy depending on who they face. And that's why I'm looking at the rest of the season and the standings and where guys are. I'm so eager to know what the playoffs is going to look like. When I'm looking at the playoff picture right now, there's so many possibilities in these last 12 games, but pretty soon mathematically we're going to know like who's being seeded where, and it's going to get real interesting. Last thing I wanted to say about the Pelicans game: Landry Shamet dunking, Landry Shamet getting to the rim.
That's what's opened up this 3-point game. Like as soon as this isn't even like, oh my God, Landry Shamet, he's so much fun. This is like a legitimate basketball analysis thing. Since he started driving, since he started making those plays at the rim, the 3-point shot has opened up so much for him because when he works off of the pick and roll, he likes taking those downhill threes where he has that little fadeaway type jump shot. It's great to see, and that's been opened up because he's been able to score at the rim so much. And man, if he can do that without having Harden facilitating, without having KD for spacing, what can you do? What can any team? Name teams in the East, name teams in the West. What can you do to stop the Nets when you have KD, Kyrie, Harden, and also Landry Shamet going off for 20, shooting greater than 50% from the 3-point line? Like, it's just too many options. And look, everyone likes talking about defense. Defense wins championships and all that. Look, if the Nets can put up 140 points, teams aren't going to be able to match that, no matter if they have Joel Embiid, Giannis, or whoever. So I'm excited for that because the Nets just have too many people that can pour shots in the basket. And it's just one of the best things that I've been able to watch and enjoy from this Nets team.
And that's kind of what I was saying or trying to say last episode, where I'm like, okay, if you think you're going to play defense against us, what team is going to be able to outscore us? And like, you're not going to be able to check KD, Kyrie, and Harden. There's no one in the NBA that has three guys that can match up with them and put the clamps on them. The Nets will have to play better defense, and I know they will. And I'm not that worried about that. Like, when you get into the playoffs, it's a different level of competition. It's a different style of basketball. And the guys that we have are guys that KD has rings. Kyrie has a ring. Harden didn't get a ring, but he was in the playoffs every year on his own. Now he's in the playoffs, and he's got two road dogs next to him and a great roster coming off the bench. And Landry Shamet, Bruce Brown, these guys getting these minutes is going to help in the playoffs because they're going to come off the bench with confidence. And I'll take our bench versus a lot of these other teams' benches because these other teams, their benches aren't getting this many minutes. The whole league is banged up. After the Heat played us, I saw that they rested like their whole team. The Sixers are banged up. And speaking of banged up, we got an injury update on our guy Spencer Dinwiddie. Yesterday, I saw a tweet from Diamond Lueng. He writes, Spencer Dinwiddie was asked about his status for the playoffs at Collision. I'm not sure what Collision is. Maybe it's some type of place or podcast. And Spencer Dinwiddie says, oh, that's a tough one. Recovery's going great. The ramp up to be able to play in a playoff atmosphere is realistic. Adds conditioning is the main hurdle, and he's returned to the court in past couple of weeks. So Spencer is already on the floor. I know it's a dream of mine. I know it might seem far-fetched to some. I know that there is a lot to be seen if it actually happens. You know, Spencer has not played since the third game of the season. But like I've been saying, he might be ready by June. And I think he's in the Nets' plans because we didn't trade him. And if he can be a spark off the bench, come on. Like, that's what these games are going to come down to in the playoffs. Like, when the stars aren't on the floor and they have to rest, who's getting good minutes out of their bench? They're glue guys. They're role players. We see it every year. The teams that get the furthest, they have guys in their second unit that can hold it down. All right.
And it's
upcoming
just great.
schedule.
I love it.
Go ahead if you got anything to add to that.
No, honestly, I'm just saying that it's awesome. He's been putting in all this work. The Nets aren't going to deny that. They're not going to shut him down. I'm looking forward to it.
And the roster is what it is, right? We talked about Mike James. Who? Mike James. Mike James last week, you know, I looked him up a little bit. I'm like, awesome. If this guy can come in and handle the rock and get buckets, like, and be just another guy, like, fine. And it shows you, right? The Nets aren't so worried about the five. They're not worried about the bigs. They're worried about ball handlers, guys that can get buckets and give us solid minutes when Kyrie sits down, when KD sits down, when Harden has to rest. Upcoming schedule. So tonight is Friday night in Brooklyn. The Celtics. We hate the Celtics. The Celtics have been playing well. The Celtics, as it currently stands, are the 6th seed. And we have history with them. Hopefully KD plays tonight. We know Kyrie will be ready to play against his former team. Road trip over, back home, title of this episode. We need a win tonight because the Suns are lurking next. The next opponent, they're Sunday. And we know that we stole that game out in Phoenix when we went on that West Coast trip. A great game. But these guys are very good and probably looking to redeem themselves, get some revenge. So with these next two games, we can't lose both games. It's very important for us to win against the Celtics tonight. And they've been playing tough. Tatum, Brown, all those guys, they've been playing tough. What are you thinking about this Celtics game tonight and the Sunday game against the Suns? Suns Sunday.
I'm thinking 1-5 is not a good vibe.
Right.
Because if the Nets lose both those games, they're going to be 1-5 in their last 6. And that is just simply not the right vibe. Because, like, at the end of the day, you can't do that when you're in this hunt for the playoffs, when you're looking for that 1 seed. It's just not something that is sustainable. It's not something that you want to see from this Nets team, especially because the Sixers just went through a very tough part of their schedule and they took some losses and really opened up the window for the Nets to go out there and play. KD is questionable tonight. I want him to play. I expect him to play, and I expect him to go off because he's KD. So I think the Nets are going to go in with two of their big stars, and I think they're going to go and win that game. They're back home. They slept in their own homes at their own beds last night. MJ says if you were to have KD play one game this weekend, would I want him to play the Celtics or the Suns? Selfishly, I think I want him to play the Celtics because
Same.
I hate the Celtics and I want to absolutely destroy the Celtics. Also, if we lose against the Suns and KD doesn't play, you're not giving a win to an Eastern Conference team as well. And yes, the Celtics are down below in the standings. They're the 6th seed, the Nets are the 2 seed, obviously tied for first place. You're still giving a win to an Eastern Conference team. You're still giving confidence to a team that you might see in the playoffs. So I think 100% out of 10, you play KD against the Celtics tonight.
KD bruised his thigh. I played football, man, and I remember having thigh pads and taking helmets and shoulders to the thigh. It hurts, but if you ice it up for a day or two, you can run and do what you got to do. I think he'll be fine. But like I said, the Brooklyn Nets are extremely cautious with these guys because they understand like what's in front of us and what really matters, not these regular season games. But yeah, I'd want to see KD play against the Celtics tonight. All right, it's time to hit voicemails in the next 10 minutes so we can wrap this thing up. Here we go. And hold on, let's see. Because I'm doing this on Bluetooth. All right. Bear with me here. We're doing this live on YouTube for the first time through streaming app. And I'm also working this voicemail on my Bluetooth speaker. Okay, here's the first one. This one came in on Tuesday night after the game.
Keith Hudson, what up? It's Louis out here in Minnesota. It's cold as shit right now, but, you know, we still watching Brooklyn, even though it wasn't on the Yes Network tonight. Anyway, I just wanted to address that. I know sometimes it's just the way the ball bounces with matchups and stuff, but maybe the Sixers didn't match up well against the Pelicans, but you really got to think about it. They're losing to the Sixers. They're losing to the Pelicans with a full, healthy team. We're beating them with Kyrie dropping 30, turning into Kobe, because he already is a reincarnation of Kobe. You got to think about it, guys. I like what Shaq said on the ESPN today. He said, when Brooklyn's healthy, it won't matter with the chemistry because these are very savvy vets that have played a lot of basketball with each other. James Harden is a smart player. Kevin Durant is the greatest player in the NBA. And Kyrie Irving's a god. We're going to be good. Nets in 4. Love y'all. Stay safe.
I think we're going to be good. I'm just worried about time. Like I said, it's coming down to the wire now, and you want to have your full team playing its best basketball down the stretch going into the playoffs. You're better suited going into the playoffs playing hot than trying to gamble. And the thing about the Brooklyn Nets right now, there is a ton on the line. And if we decide to gamble and not have these guys play any regular season games together, and we go into a playoff series where you could be out in 4 games, 5 games, 6 games, it's just risky business. But we know the power we have. We know the guys that we have, and you should feel confident. But as a fan, you know what it's like, man. You're thinking about the chance of the Brooklyn Nets not doing it and then us having to hear about it for months, and it's like, you know, everyone keeps saying, oh, y'all better win it. Y'all better win it. We're like, yeah, that's the plan. All right,
First,
next
second,
voicemail.
third. All you got to do is win.
Hey, not too bad. We just need Shamit here, huh? And Harris wasn't too bad. It would be good when we get in the playoffs and all our players are healthy, including Harden, Durant, and that's good. Thanks. Bye.
I feel like
He's
that
right.
kid had to be like 11 years old. That's why I try not to curse on this podcast, because I'm like, I know there's literal little children listening. And yeah, this kid says he knows we'll be good. Shout out to you, bro. Like, we're just trying to get to the playoffs. What did I say last week? TikTok, just get me to the playoffs and the games that matter, because we know that the Brooklyn Nets are going to be super cautious with these guys right now. We're losing a couple games, and it's frustrating, but it's part of this greater Nets championship story. I've been alluding to this championship DVD and how the Nets already have this great story of adversity and missing guys and having this powerful team and having Harden for a little while look like an MVP, then he gets hurt. and KD waiting 500 some days for KD to play as a net, and then he can't stay on the court from COVID and from a hamstring and now a thigh contusion, and Kyrie taking leaves, and people saying everything about Kyrie when really he's out here just trying to help his team, help his teammates, and help the world. So it's going to be a great championship run, and it's going to be a great championship DVD for us to watch forever. Last voicemail.
Man, Blake Griffin is ass cheeks. We don't play no fucking defense until it's time to fucking play in the fourth quarter. And the shit is pushing me off, bro. KD hardly need to come back, bro. Damn.
See, y'all can curse on the pod. I'm just trying not to curse on the pod because I don't want the little kids to tell their mom, you know, when they say the F word, they heard it from Keith on Talking Nets. This guy was upset, and I think that voicemail came in Wednesday after the game. I understand
that
the
would make
frustration.
sense. I get it.
You know,
I
Blake
get it.
Griffin doesn't play no defense.
I don't think it's accurate.
I think it's just a frustrated fan. Like I said, I was watching the game like in Yankee Stadium. I watched the game on the Yes app on my phone, but clearly you can't watch. Like it's easier for me at home to watch the Yankees and Nets if they're on at the same time because I can have two screens. But in the stadium, I can't watch the live game and then be looking down on my phone. So I didn't see the full game. I saw that we were up for the first quarter, the first half, and then we blew it in the second half. The second quarter, fourth quarter, they closed us out. And I was frustrated too because, like I said, if we win that game, then the Sixers go lose 2 games. We're in first outright right now. And we needed to win that game before facing the Celtics and Suns at home this weekend. That's all we got for voicemails. Let's close this thing, Hudson. You got anything to add? Maybe some Friday motivation, some Friday, Feel Good Friday. I don't know, hashtag Friday mood. We're back home.
Shoot,
road trip over.
Man, if I'm trying to give motivation, I'm just gonna give out the link to Spencer Dinwiddie's compilation of workout videos that he put out the other day. Like, if you want to be motivated to do something, look at what Spencer Dinwiddie has done every single day since his injury to be on that road to recovery, to be able to get back and to play at full strength. You realize if it's realistic that we can see him in the second round? Maybe. I don't know. I don't count Spencer Dinwiddie out ever because of what I've seen him do, the workouts that I've seen him put in. So let's just see what he can do. And like I said, if you want to see that is just motivating, that's a great look for what it means to have that Brooklyn grit, that Brooklyn toughness. Look no further than Spencer Dinwiddie.
And that's it. We didn't read a voicemail on this pod because we don't have any new voicemails. If you're listening to this podcast when it ends in a couple minutes and you have Apple, go write us a review. Tell the world what you think about Keith and Hudson and Talking Nets. We need it. We got 3 voicemails, and I think people like our guy Louie and some other people know to just call the voicemail to get their frustration out or to send some support for the team. And that voicemail number is 201-870-0461. Call in and be heard. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Talking Nets. On the road to 10,000. I'm assuming everybody that has a Twitter that listens to this show follows us on Twitter. But go tell your friends, hey, as we're getting into the playoffs, you need to be following these guys. They're going to be live. They're going to be covering it. At Talking Nets on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to the YouTube. The YouTube is growing. We're live on YouTube right now, not in studio. This is the first time we've ever gone live remotely from my house, Hudson's dorm. And now we're set up to do this whenever news breaks or after games, or maybe we'll do some pregame shows, or I don't know. We're just ramping up for the playoffs. It's our time. It's our world. Nets world. Subscribe, rate, review the pod. Once again, we appreciate all the support. Hudson Flynn, you got any closing remarks?
Nah, Keith, you got it. Close it out.
Close it out. So you know what? I actually have to get on a call today with the Brooklyn Nets ticket office. I'm trying to put us in the stadium before the regular season ends. I'm blessed enough to have put together about 10 to 15 people. And someone in the chat said you should do a live play-by-play reaction. We're actually thinking about doing that at Tailgate Brooklyn Hudson and I with the headsets on calling the game, because at Tailgate Brooklyn, they just play music and they have the game on the TVs. I think we're going to set up like a Talking Nets section, maybe for the playoffs or maybe for one of these last games. And instead of listening to the national call, you can listen to Keith and Hudson call the game. And I think that'll be entertaining. That'll be fun. I think that'll be better than a live podcast, because sometimes we do a live podcast there and there's people there that aren't our audience. And I don't want to mess up people's Saturday nights if they, don't listen to the podcast or don't pay attention to the Nets. But anyway, back to what I was saying. We're going to get in the stadium. I'm working on it now. And I'm looking forward to returning to Barclays, because I've been wasting my time in Yankee Stadium. Went and watched them lose like 7 games in the freezing cold. I'm done. It's time to get back. So look out for that. Can't wait to get the Nets fans together, the TM fam together, so we can say, let's go Nets. Brooklyn. And that's the show. First live show that we've done like that. Let me stop my recording on GarageBand. And thanks for watching and chatting and supporting what we do. This was an experiment, and I think it didn't go that bad. I'll obviously have to watch this back and edit some stuff, but I'm glad that we've taken this step.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we'll see you guys tonight on Twitter. What time's the game tip off? Tonight at 7-ish, probably 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8-ish. Yeah, let's see. Nets schedule tonight, 7:30. Need this win tonight. Hopefully KD plays and we keep it rolling. That's all we've got here. We'll see you.